My name is Hannah. I am 28 years old, and I need to start with the moment that still makes my chest tighten whenever I think about it. Imagine this me in a white wedding dress, lace trailing across the polished floor, the scent of lilies and hydrangeas floating in the air, the clapping of friends, the laughter of Jason's family. Everything looked like the perfect American wedding. Yet as I stood beside the man I loved most in the world, I felt something missing so loudly it drowned out the joy. The chairs on my side of the aisle were empty. My parents were not there. My sister was not there. No one from my family had come. For years I had rehearsed this day in my mind, always believing that no matter how messy our history was, surely they would show up for me at least once. Surely my father would walk me down the aisle, my mother would fix my veil with tears in her eyes, and my sister would smile from the front row. But those images were just dreams. On that real morning, the space where my family should have been was just air and silence. I pressed the knife with Jason into the soft frosting of our 3-tier cake cameras, flashing applause echoing, but my heart felt hollow. Every bride dreams of this ritual being full of warmth and family pride. For me, it was a ritual split in half joy, half grief. And then, as if the universe wanted to test me further, my phone vibrated against the pocket of my dress. I ignored it at first, trying to focus on Jason's smile, but it buzzed again and again, insistent. When I finally glanced down, my stomach dropped. A text glowed across the screen. "We need to talk now." It was from my mother. Below it, I saw 36 missed calls. 36. I froze with the knife still in my hand. My thoughts raced. Why now? Why today? After months of silence, after broken promises and excuses, after every sign that they would not show up for me, why flood my phone on the one day that was supposed to be mine? Jason noticed my trembling hand and whispered, "Everything okay?" I forced a smile and nodded, but inside I was unraveling. The timing was cruel, the irony unbearable. They had not been there when I walked the aisle, when I said my vows, when I became a wife, yet now at the exact moment of celebration they demanded attention. In that instant, I realized something sharp and painful. Family can hurt you in ways no stranger ever could. A stranger's absence is forgettable, but your own parents' absence becomes a wound that never fully closes. I looked at Jason again, at the man who had promised to stand by me no matter what, and I told myself this day was still sacred. But the unanswered question lingered in my chest, heavier than the diamond ring on my finger. Why had my family abandoned me? That question would soon pull me backward through years of memories I had tried to bury, forcing me to confront the truth about favoritism, neglect, and betrayal. And it would lead to a revelation I could never have imagined when I first walked into that hall wearing white. Because sometimes the people you think are your foundation are the very ones who set fire to it. And sometimes you have to build a new foundation, even if it means standing in front of the world, seemingly alone. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and if you have ever felt the sting of betrayal from your own family. It is a pain that cuts deeper than words, but sharing it makes us a little less alone. That night at my wedding, with Jason's hand over mine, I thought I was already at the lowest point of this story. I was wrong. What came next would show me that my absence of family at the ceremony was not just neglect. It was the result of something far darker, a deception I never saw coming. My phone would not stop buzzing, as if the device itself knew my heart was already fragile. 36 missed calls and a single message. "We need to talk now." I stared at the screen, my chest tight, my mind spiraling. Where had this sudden urgency come from? Why today, when they had already chosen absence over presence? Jason leaned close, concern shadowing his smile. "Do you want to answer it?" he whispered. His hand was steady against mine, but my own was trembling. I shook my head, tucking the phone away. "Not right now," I said softly, but inside the question clawed at me. What could possibly be so important now when they had ignored me for months? The laughter of our guests swirled around me, the music played, cameras flashed. Yet I felt like a ghost at my own wedding, haunted by a family that was not there. For years I had tried to tell myself their absence in my life was tolerable, that I could live without their approval. But standing there in my wedding dress, I realized how deep that hunger for acknowledgement still ran. It hurt. It burned. I excused myself, briefly stepping into a quiet corner near the venue garden. The cool night air brushed against my skin, grounding me. I unlocked my phone again, staring at those missed calls. Each number felt like a scar. Should I call back? Should I let them interrupt this day with whatever crisis they suddenly decided mattered more than me? Jason followed quietly, resting a hand on my shoulder. "You do not have to give them this moment," he said. "They had their chance earlier. They chose not to come. Don't let them take this from you too." His words were gentle, but they cut through me because he was right. This was supposed to be our day mine and his not another stage for my family's drama. Still, the pull was there. The same pull I had felt my entire life, waiting for them to finally see me, to finally say, "We are proud of you." Even on the happiest day of my life, I could not silence that longing. It was a chain I had carried since childhood, and I hated how heavy it still felt. I turned to Jason and whispered, "Why does it hurt this much? Why do I still care?" He looked at me, his brown eyes full of kindness, and answered simply, "Because they are your family. And because every child deserves to be loved unconditionally. You never got that, and it is not your fault." That truth sank into me like a stone into water. For the first time, I realized I had been chasing something I might never catch. My parents' approval, my sister's respect, the love that should have been mine without condition. Maybe tonight, as I stood in a white dress, surrounded by people who actually loved me, was the night I needed to let that chase end. The music swelled inside, calling us back to the celebration. Jason squeezed my hand. "Come on, let's dance. Tonight is ours." I nodded, slipping the phone back into my pocket, choosing at least for the moment not to let their absence or their sudden calls poison what I had built with him. But deep down I knew this story was far from finished. Their silence before their desperate calls, now it meant something. And sooner or later I would have to face the reason they had abandoned me today. Before I tell you how it all began, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt the sting of betrayal from your own family? If you have, you know it cuts sharper than any other wound. Share your story in the comments, I want to know, because telling these truths is how we stop them from defining us. And if you are new here, subscribe, because what I am about to share is not just a wedding story. It is the unraveling of a family secret, years in the making. I took Jason's hand and stepped back into the hall. The lights sparkled, guests smiled, and music filled the air. On the surface, it was the perfect wedding, but inside I carried a storm that no one else could see. And to understand why that storm existed, I need to take you back to a house in Ohio, to the beginning of everything. When I tell you that my childhood looked picture perfect from the outside, I mean it. Neat lawn in front of a suburban house in Ohio, matching Christmas sweaters every year, family trips to the beach, smiling photographs lining the hallway. To any neighbor or relative passing through, we were the ideal American family. But the photos were only part of the truth. Behind those closed doors, there was a hierarchy I could never climb. My younger sister, Harper, was born 3 years after me. From the moment she entered the world, it felt like she was crowned the family's golden child. Blonde curls, a bright dimpled smile, and that magnetic personality that drew every room toward her. She twirled, in ballet recitals, played violin, won ribbons at school events, and every one of her moments was treated like a national holiday. My parents, Daniel and Evelyn, were front row at every recital, cheering so loudly the audience sometimes laughed. Meanwhile, I learned quickly that my victories were private ones. I was the quiet achiever, the one who excelled in math and science, who collected scholarships and certificates, who stayed up late solving equations while Harper rehearsed her dance moves. I still remember the sting of one particular night. I walked into the living room clutching a letter of acceptance into the advanced science program at school. My hands were shaking with pride. "Mom, I got accepted," I announced, holding the paper out like a trophy. She glanced up briefly, her hands busy pinning sequins on Harper's dance costume. "That's nice, honey. Put it on the counter so Dad can see it later." Then she turned back to Harper, adjusting her skirt and praising how beautiful she looked. That same week, Harper placed third in a small local dance competition. For that, my parents took us all out to dinner, ordered champagne for themselves, toasted to our little star. I remember pushing food around my plate while everyone clapped for her. Nobody had clapped for me. That wasn't a single moment, it was a pattern. When I graduated high school, I begged my parents to come. I was giving a speech. I had earned the honor. But Harper had a recital that same night. "You understand, right?" my mother said, voice coated in fake sympathy. "This is really important for her future." I nodded. I always nodded. I always understood. But inside, a piece of me cracked. By the time I went to college, I had accepted my role, the emotional orphan. I stopped sharing my victories because I already knew the script. They would smile politely, then turn the spotlight back to Harper. I learned to build walls, to find pride in silence, to celebrate alone. What hurt wasn't Harper's success. I never begrudged her talent or her charm. What hurt was that my parents couldn't hold two truths at once, that they couldn't love us both with the same light. They gave it all to her and left me in the shadows. Looking back now, I realize how those years shaped me. They taught me to lower my expectations until they nearly touched the floor. They taught me to carry achievements like secrets instead of celebrations. And worst of all, they planted in me the idea that maybe I just wasn't enough. Have you ever been overlooked by the people you expected to cheer for you the loudest? Tell me in the comments, because I know I can't be the only one who grew up clapping for themselves. And if you're still watching, don't forget to subscribe because this story is about to get darker, and I don't want you to miss what comes next. What I didn't know then was that this pattern, this neglect, wasn't just my childhood. It would follow me into adulthood through graduations and milestones, through every achievement that should have drawn my family close, but only pushed them farther away. It was the beginning of a wound that would split wide open on my wedding day. But before we get there, let me tell you about the many times I thought maybe they would show up for me, and how every time they didn't. The first time I realized my family's absence was not just occasional, but a pattern, was at my high school graduation. I had worked harder than ever, pulling late nights, tutoring classmates, pouring myself into academics. That night, I stood in my cap and gown, ready to deliver a speech as one of the top students. 4 seats in the front row were reserved with my last name on them. I kept glancing back at the doors, expecting to see my parents walk in at any moment, my sister trailing behind. But the ceremony began, and their seats stayed empty. When my name was called, the auditorium clapped. My classmates' families cheered loudly, but the chairs with Jenkins on them remained untouched. Later, when I asked my mom why they hadn't come, she replied, "Harper had an important recital that night. You understand, right?" That phrase, "you understand, right," became the cruel refrain of my adolescence. I understood too well. I understood that Harper's spotlight always eclipsed mine. It didn't stop there. College was no different. I called home after earning a full scholarship in biomedical engineering. My father's response was distracted. "That's good, honey. Did you hear Harper might get the lead in her theater class?" When I walked across the stage, years later, graduating, with the highest honors, I had once again saved seats for them too, for my parents, one for Harper, one for Naomi, my best friend. Naomi showed up. My family didn't. Their excuse, Harper, had a last-minute audition in New York. Do you know what it feels like to stare into a crowd of thousands searching desperately for faces that will never appear? To hear everyone else's families scream and clap while you walk off stage into silence? That moment was the death of hope for me. I had already been conditioned to expect disappointment, but something in me broke that day. Naomi found me crying behind the science building diploma still in my hand. She wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "I'll be your family." And in many ways she was. Through every unanswered birthday call, every holiday where my parents managed to forget me while posting photos, with Harper, Naomi was the one who stayed. She saw the damage, she saw the tears, and she held me together. But no matter how strong I pretended to be, the ache lingered. Family rejection is not something you outgrow. It follows you, a shadow that lengthens with every milestone. When Jason came into my life, I told him this history with trembling hands, expecting him to look at me with pity or discomfort. Instead, he said, "That's not normal, Hannah. You deserved better. You still do." No one had ever said it so directly before. For years, I thought maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I asked for too much. Jason stripped away that lie. Yet, even as he encouraged me to build boundaries, even as therapy gave me words like emotional neglect, part of me still clung to the fantasy. The fantasy that one day my parents would wake up and finally notice me. That maybe at my wedding, the one event so monumental, it could not be ignored. They would finally show up. I carried that fragile hope like glass in my hands, knowing it might shatter but unwilling to let it go. Because when it's your own family, no matter how many times they let you down, some small part of you always believes the next time will be different. Have you ever held on to hope, even when every sign told you to let it go? Share it with me in the comments, because clinging to hope is something we all do when it comes to the people we love. And if you're following this story, make sure to subscribe, because the deeper we go, the more you'll see how this cycle played out until the very day I walked down the aisle. This cycle of neglect wasn't a few bad moments, it was the architecture of my childhood. And like all faulty foundations, it was destined to crack wide open. The wedding was not the beginning of the storm, it was the inevitable climax of years of looking at empty seats. If my own family had built walls of silence around me, then Naomi was the first person who broke through them. We met freshman year of college, both standing in a long line during orientation. She cracked a joke about the cafeteria food, and for the first time in days, I laughed. By the end of that week, we were inseparable. Where my parents forgot birthdays, Naomi baked me cupcakes. Where they skipped milestones, Naomi clapped louder than anyone. She became the sister I had always wished for, but never had. When holidays came around and I would sit by the phone waiting for calls that never came, Naomi invited me to her family's house. Her parents asked me questions about my studies, listened when I spoke, celebrated my wins. They treated me like a person worth knowing. Sometimes I caught myself blinking back tears at their dinner table because the kindness felt so foreign. Naomi never judged me for that. She just squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "You belong here too." After college, we moved to Boston together and shared an apartment. 3 years of rent coffee runs, heartbreaks, and late-night laughter made us more than roommates, we were family. When I cried after another ignored voicemail to my parents, Naomi was there with tissues and cheap wine. She once told me, "They don't see you, but I do." And in that moment, I almost believed her words could fill the void. Then came Jason. I met him at a birthday party, tall, with kind eyes and a laugh that made me feel lighter. On our third date over pasta in a tiny Italian restaurant, I blurted out the story of my family. I expected the awkward silence, the quick subject change. Instead, he reached across the table, held my hand, and said, "That's not okay, Hannah. That's neglect. And you didn't deserve it." His voice was steady, sure. It was the first time anyone had validated me so clearly. Jason didn't try to fix my family, and he didn't minimize my pain. What he did was give me permission to stop chasing after people who had already chosen to look away. He encouraged therapy, and I found Dr. Winters, who taught me the term radical acceptance. It meant lowering my expectations to match reality instead of constantly begging for love that might never come. Painful, yes, but liberating. Jason's family was the proof of what love should look like. His mom, Linda, called me just to ask about my day. His dad, Robert, sent me articles about science breakthroughs he thought I'd enjoy. His sister, Olivia, joked with me like a real sibling. They made me feel seen. One night, Linda hugged me and whispered, "You're part of our family now. Here we celebrate everyone's victories." I cried in their bathroom because it was the first time anyone had said that to me. In Jason's family, I saw the blueprint of the family I had always wanted. And for once, I felt hope, not that my parents would change, but that I could build something new. That I could finally create a life where I was not an afterthought. If you've ever found family outside of blood friends who became sisters, mentors, who became parents, tell me in the comments. Because sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the one you're born into. And if you're still with me, don't forget to subscribe. Because the next part of this story will show you how hope and love are tested when old wounds collide with new beginnings. Finding Naomi and Jason didn't erase the scars, but they gave me the strength to keep moving. I promised myself that if I ever had children, I would break the cycle. I would never make them wonder if they were enough. But I had no idea just how severely that promise would be tested once Jason asked me to marry him. Jason proposed in a way that felt like it had been written for a movie, but somehow it was perfectly us. It was our 2-year anniversary, and he suggested a night at the little independent theater in Cambridge, where we had gone on our very first date. I thought we were just going to rewatch some old film together. But halfway through the screening, the movie suddenly froze. The lights dimmed lower and the screen flickered with new images. I blinked, confused, as pictures of Jason and me filled the screen. A montage, our first vacation, our silly selfies at Fenway Park, the time we got caught in the rain walking home from dinner. The soundtrack, our favorite song, the one we had danced to in the kitchen countless times. My chest tightened as clips rolled, and then the final frame appeared. "Hannah, will you marry me?" The theater lights rose just slightly, and Jason was kneeling in front of me holding a diamond ring that wasn't flashy, but elegant. Simple, timeless, just like the life we wanted to build. "Hannah," he said, his voice shaking, "you are the strongest, kindest, most brilliant woman I know. Will you marry me?" I cried, of course. Not polite tears, but real ones, messy and overwhelming. The crowd clapped, strangers cheering for us. I nodded furiously and said yes, and when he slid the ring on my finger, I felt like everything I had ever wanted was right there in my hand. That night we toasted with champagne in our apartment, laughing, kissing, spinning around the living room. For a while nothing else mattered. But even in the glow of that perfect moment, anxiety began whispering. I had to call my family. Surely, even if they had missed so many milestones, this was different. Surely an engagement, something so monumental, would spark some excitement, some joy. The next morning I dialed my parents. My stomach knotted with every ring. Finally, my mother picked up. "Hi, Mom," I said, my voice bright, desperate for her to match my energy. "I have news. Jason proposed last night." I said, "Yes, we're engaged." There was a pause. Too long. Then she replied flatly, "Oh, that's good. Congratulations." I forced a laugh. "We're thinking maybe a spring wedding in 6 months or so. Isn't that exciting?" Another pause. "That's quite soon." "Well, let us know the details." Then, without missing a beat, she added, "Harper just got the lead in a local theater production. We're thrilled for her." The shift was brutal, like someone blowing out the candle I had lit. My engagement, the happiest news of my life, had been overshadowed in seconds. I hung up the phone feeling smaller than I had in years. Jason wrapped his arm around me, sensing the disappointment, before I said a word. "I'm sorry," he whispered. But here's the thing, I still clung to hope. Despite the lukewarm reaction, despite the way Harper's shadow swallowed my joy, I believed that maybe planning the wedding would bring them closer. Maybe when the invitations arrived, when the big day came, they would finally stand with me. I didn't know yet that the pattern of indifference was about to twist into something far more deliberate and far more cruel. Have you ever shared good news only to have it brushed aside like it didn't matter? Tell me in the comments, because I know that sting isn't mine alone. And if you're here listening, make sure to subscribe. The story is about to turn from cold indifference into betrayal you won't believe. That phone call marked the beginning of a painful countdown. Each decision Jason and I made, choosing the venue, picking flowers, booking a photographer, was a brick in the foundation of our future. But each step forward also carried a question I couldn't shake. Would my family be there to see it? 4 months before the wedding, Jason and I sealed our invitations and dropped them into the mailbox together. 60 envelopes each one, carrying a piece of our joy, fluttered into the slot like fragile promises. Among them were the ones I had addressed with shaky handwriting to my parents, to my sister Harper, to a few cousins I still hoped might show up, even if they barely knew me. For weeks I checked the mailbox every day, waiting for the little white RSVP cards to come back. Jason's family responded within days. Most of our friends sent back enthusiastic yeses. But my family's envelopes never returned. Silence again. The kind that felt heavier than 1,000 no's. I tried to stay calm. Maybe they were just late. Maybe they wanted to surprise me by telling me in person. So I called. "Mom, did you get the invitation? The venue needs a final head count soon." Her voice was airy, distracted. "Yes, we got it. Your father and I have been meaning to call. We'll try to make it, of course, but you know how busy things get." I clenched the phone tighter. "It's my wedding day. I would really like you all to be there." "Of course, honey, we'll do our best." It was always the same script, vague promises, no commitment. When I asked my dad if he wanted to do the father-daughter dance, he mumbled something about checking his schedule. Every time I hung up, the weight in my chest grew. Still, I told myself not to panic. I told myself they wouldn't actually miss this, not this. Through it all, Naomi was a force of light. She planned a bridal shower full of laughter, organized the guest list, even held my hand when the anxiety overwhelmed me. "They'll come around," she promised, "and even if they don't, I'll be standing right beside you the entire day." Her words kept me afloat when the silence threatened to drown me. Jason's family stepped in too, more than I ever expected. His mom offered to handle the seating chart. His dad insisted on contributing to the costs, even though Jason and I had planned to cover everything ourselves. His sister threw me another shower one, where his aunts and cousins embraced me like I had been theirs for years. Their joy was so genuine it made me cry in the bathroom again. But every celebration carried a shadow. Every toast, every fitting, every cake tasting. There was always that lingering question. Will my family come? I imagined them arriving late, but still walking through the doors. Imagined my father finally taking my hand. Imagined Harper squeezing me and whispering she was proud. Those daydreams were fragile, but I clung to them anyway. Because that's what children of neglect do. We hold out hope even when every past moment tells us not to. Tell me, have you ever held out hope for someone who let you down again and again? I want to hear your stories in the comments. And if you're still following, subscribe, because what happens next will shatter every piece of hope I had left. Despite my instincts, despite the ache in my gut, I kept believing my wedding would be different. I thought maybe the milestone would finally force them to choose me, to show up, to celebrate me for once in my life. But what I didn't know was that my hope was already on borrowed time. And 2 weeks before the wedding, that hope would be destroyed in the cruelest way possible, with a single Instagram post that took my breath away. 2 weeks before the wedding, I was eating lunch at my desk when my thumb froze mid-scroll. There it was, glaring at me from the glow of Instagram, a photo of my sister Harper, smiling so wide it almost looked staged, her left hand stretched toward the camera to show off a diamond ring. The caption was chirpy, filled with exclamation marks. He asked. I said yes. Future Mrs. Williams. My heart dropped. Harper was engaged. To Patrick, a man she had been dating for barely 6 months. But it wasn't just the engagement that stunned me, it was the comment section. My parents had flooded it with joy. My mom had written, so happy for my beautiful baby girl. Can't wait to celebrate this weekend. I reread it, the words twisting in my chest. My wedding was in 2 weeks. What celebration were they talking about? My fingers trembled as I dialed my mom's number. She picked up on the second ring, her tone chipper, until she realized it was me. Oh, Hannah, everything okay? Harper's engaged, I asked, my voice a whisper. Yes, Patrick proposed last weekend. It was so romantic he took her to that vineyard upstate. Why didn't anyone tell me? Well, honey, you've been so busy with your own wedding plans. We didn't want to bother you. Her tone was too light, too practiced. I pressed harder. What is this about celebrating this weekend? My wedding is in 2 weeks. There was a pause, then she said casually, Oh, Harper is having a small engagement party on Saturday. Just family and close friends. I nearly dropped the phone. This Saturday, that's my wedding day. Silence followed by a fake gasp. Is it? Oh dear. I thought your wedding was the following weekend. Harper's had this date planned for a while. That doesn't make sense, I shot back. She just got engaged last weekend. Her voice grew tight, defensive. Well, they've known it was coming. They just made it official recently. And Hannah, would it be possible for you and Jason to reschedule? We've already put down deposits for Harper's party. Everyone has made arrangements. The audacity of it stole my breath. Reschedule, Mom. We have contracts, vendors, 60 guests invited. It's my wedding. I can't just move it because Harper wants a party. She sighed as if I were being unreasonable. We'll figure something out. But you know how important this is for Harper. She's dreamed of this moment for months. And I've been planning my wedding for 6 months. I snapped, my voice shaking. Her solution was laughable. Maybe we can split our time, go to Harper's party, and then stop by your ceremony. Stop by, as if my wedding was an errand. As if my vows, my commitment, my entire future were less important than Harper's champagne toast. I ended the call before my rage turned into sobs. Immediately, I dialed Naomi, my maid of honor, my safe place. They want me to reschedule my wedding for Harper's engagement party, I said, my words tumbling over tears. Naomi was silent for a beat, then spat. That's insane. Hannah, listen to me. You are not moving your wedding. You are marrying Jason on that day exactly as planned. If they choose Harper's party over your wedding, that's on them, not on you. And I'll be there the entire time. You won't be alone. Her conviction steadied me, but my insides still shook. My family had made their choice, and it wasn't me. What would you have done if your own parents asked you to reschedule your wedding for your sister's engagement party? Tell me in the comments. I need to know if anyone else has faced something this outrageous. And if you're still here, subscribe. The next turn in this story will break the fragile trust I had left because the betrayal wasn't finished. At that moment, I thought Harper stealing my wedding day was the final blow. But I hadn't yet discovered the second betrayal waiting just around the corner, the kind that doesn't come from family, but from the very friend who had promised never to leave my side. I barely slept after that call. The words "reschedule your wedding" played on a loop in my mind like some cruel joke. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of planning the deposits, paid the hours spent picking flowers, the emails with the caterer, and wondering how my own mother could suggest tossing it all away, as if it were nothing more than a dinner reservation. By morning, my anger had settled into a hollow ache. I tried calling my father, hoping he would offer some sense, some balance. He answered on the third ring, his voice distracted. "Hannah, I'm in the middle of something. Can we talk later?" "Dad, I just need to know, are you coming to my wedding?" There was a pause. Then he sighed. "Your mother needs me to help with Harper's party. You know how important this is to her future. More important than his eldest daughter's wedding." My voice cracked. "There's no conflict, Dad. You had a choice, and you chose." He grew stiff. "I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope you have a nice wedding." And then he hung up. I sat there, phone pressed against my ear, stunned. That was it. My father had just told me in so many words that I wasn't worth the effort. Jason found me at the kitchen table, eyes red, phone clenched in my hand. He didn't ask what happened, he knew. He wrapped his arms around me and whispered, "Their loss. But we're still getting married. We're still celebrating." Later that night, I texted Harper directly. "Congratulations on your engagement. I wish you'd told me personally. Is there any way you could move your party? I'd love for you to be at my wedding." Her response came hours later. "Thanks. Sorry, everything is already set. Maybe you could come by after your reception. It's gonna be epic." Epic, as if my wedding day was just a side note to her grand performance. That casual disregard was the final twist of the knife. I sat staring at her words until they blurred. My hands shook, but no more tears came. Something inside me had snapped. The little girl who once begged for attention, the teenager who saved seats at graduations, the young woman who kept waiting for her parents to show up, she was gone. I realized then that my family would never choose me. They had always chosen Harper, and now they had done it again on the biggest day of my life. Let me ask you, if your family demanded you reschedule your wedding to make room for your siblings' party, what would you do? Comment your thoughts below because I want to hear how others would handle something so unthinkable. And don't forget to subscribe, because what I discovered next would prove this betrayal ran even deeper than I imagined. That night, Jason and I sat on the couch, holding hands, staring into the silence. He finally said, "We'll still have the wedding we planned, with or without them. This day will be about us." His words were strong, but I saw the flicker of anger in his eyes, not for himself, but for me. And for a while, I let myself believe that was the worst it could get. That my parents' betrayal and Harper's selfishness were the final blows. I didn't know that within hours I would uncover another wound, this time from the one person outside Jason I thought I could always count on. Because betrayal doesn't always come from the people you expect. Sometimes it comes from the friend you believed would stand beside you no matter what. And on the eve of my wedding, that friend's choice would leave me shattered in a way I never saw coming. The night before my wedding, I thought things couldn't get worse. I had already accepted that my parents and Harper wouldn't come. I had already mourned the father-daughter dance. That would never happen, the mother straightening my veil that I'd only see in my imagination. But I told myself it was okay because I still had Naomi. Naomi had promised to stand beside me since the day Jason proposed. She planned my bridal shower, calmed me during fittings, reminded me constantly that I wasn't alone. "I'll be with you" through everything, she had said more times than I could count. In my mind, she was the anchor, holding me steady while the storm of family rejection raged. That evening, I lay in my hotel bed dress, hanging in the closet hair tools lined up for the morning. My phone buzzed. A text from Naomi. "So sorry, family emergency. I might be a little late tomorrow, but I'll definitely be there before the ceremony. Don't worry." It was vague. Too vague. Naomi had never been vague with me. Something twisted in my stomach. I replied, "Is everything okay? Do you need me to help?" She answered, "All good. Just need to handle this. Get some sleep. Big day tomorrow." I wanted to believe her. I tried to. But an hour later, scrolling through Instagram to distract myself, I froze again. Harper had posted a selfie twirling in a party dress. The caption, "Final fitting for tomorrow's big day. Can't wait to celebrate with everyone who matters." My eyes locked on the location tag, "Bellamy's Boutique." The same boutique Naomi had mentioned earlier that week when she said she had errands. My hands shook as I tapped the photo. Among the likes there, it was Naomi's name. Worse beneath it, a comment she'd posted 30 minutes earlier. "You look stunning. Can't wait for tomorrow." I felt the air leave my lungs. I switched to Naomi's profile, clicked her stories. She had deleted the latest one, but Instagram still showed the timestamp 1 hour ago. My stomach churned. I called her immediately, straight to voicemail. I texted, "I saw Harper's post and your comment. Are you going to her party instead of my wedding?" For minutes, nothing. Then the 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "I'm so sorry, Hannah." Harper reached out and said it would mean so much if I came. I thought maybe I could do both, but the timing won't work. I should have told you sooner. I feel terrible. Terrible. The word barely touched the betrayal crashing over me. This wasn't just a guest choosing Harper. This was my maid of honor, my sister in everything but blood, abandoning me for the very person who had destroyed my day. I curled on the bed dress bag hanging silently in the corner and let the sobs come. Jason knocked worried, but I couldn't even speak. Everyone I had counted on my parents, my sister, and now Naomi had chosen Harper. Again, always Harper. What would you do if your best friend, the one person you trusted most, betrayed you the night before your wedding? Tell me in the comments. I need to know how others would face that kind of heartbreak. And if you're still here, subscribe, because what happened next proves that sometimes betrayal clears the way for unexpected loyalty. Because when the morning came and I woke with swollen eyes and a hollow chest, someone I never expected knocked on my door, and that knock changed everything. The morning of my wedding, I woke up with eyes swollen from crying. The room smelled faintly of hairspray and flowers from the arrangements delivered the night before, but nothing about it felt joyful. My maid of honor had abandoned me. My family had chosen a party over my vows, and for the first time in months of planning, I wondered if I even had the strength to walk down the aisle. A knock startled me. I dragged myself to the door, still in a robe, hair tangled. When I opened it, I froze. Standing there with 2 cups of coffee and a paper bag of bagels was Allison Turner. Allison, my college roommate from junior year, someone I had stayed in touch with only loosely. She smiled, holding the tray up. "Room 312, right bride in need of caffeine." I blinked, stunned. "Allison, you came." "Of course I did," she said, stepping inside. "I wouldn't miss your wedding. Now sit because you look like you haven't slept in a week." Her words cracked something in me. I burst into tears right there in the doorway. Allison set the food down, pulled me into a hug, and said softly, "Hey, whatever it is, we'll fix it." Through broken sobs, I spilled everything: my family choosing Harper's engagement party, Naomi's betrayal, the crushing loneliness. When I finished, Allison looked at me with fierce determination. "Okay, first of all, they don't deserve you. Second, I'm here. And if you'll let me, I'd be honored to step in as your maid of honor today." My jaw dropped. "You'd do that on such short notice?" "Are you kidding? What else are friends for? Now drink this coffee before I start making calls." She got to work instantly, confirming hair and makeup appointments, rearranging the morning schedule, even cracking jokes about our college days to make me smile. Within an hour, the room shifted from despair to controlled chaos, the good kind. Stylists bustled in curling irons, clicked makeup brushes, painted away the traces of last night's tears. Allison was everywhere, at once holding pins, checking times, making sure I ate a bagel. She anticipated needs I didn't even know I had, and with every little act I felt a weight lifting. Naomi might have abandoned me, but here was someone who hadn't promised anything and still showed up. As the veil settled over my hair, Allison stepped back and grinned. "Look at you. Jason's going to be speechless." I studied my reflection, feeling something close to the bride I had once imagined. "I just wish—" My voice trailed off. "I know," Allison said gently, "but today is still your day. Focus on Jason, on your vows, on the life you're building. That's what matters most." In that moment, I realized how right she was. Family may fail, friends may falter, but loyalty sometimes comes from the least expected places. And sometimes that loyalty is even more powerful. Have you ever had someone surprise you with unexpected loyalty when you needed it most? Share it in the comments. And if you're still following, subscribe, because what happened next was another surprise, one that turned my walk down the aisle into something unforgettable. Because just when I thought Allison's rescue was the last miracle I would get that day, another knock came at the door. And this time it was Jason's father, offering me something I never thought I would have: someone to walk me down the aisle. The room had just begun to quiet after the rush of hair and makeup when another knock sounded at the door. I thought maybe it was the florist or the photographer, but when Allison opened it, there stood Robert, Jason's father. He looked elegant in his tuxedo, but his kind eyes carried a hint of nervousness. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said, his gaze finding mine. "Jason mentioned that your father might not be here today. I just wanted to offer, if you'd like someone to walk you down the aisle, I'd be honored." For a moment I couldn't breathe. The air in the room seemed to still. All the years I had imagined my father at my side, gone in an instant, replaced by this man who wasn't bound to me by blood, but by choice. My throat tightened, tears gathering faster than I could stop them. "Robert," I whispered, my voice shaking, "I would be honored. Thank you." Emotion flickered across his face. "No, Hannah. The honor is mine. You've made my son happier than we've ever seen him. You're already part of our family. Today just makes it official." I broke, then sobs I didn't even know I'd been holding poured out. Allison touched my shoulder, gently steadying me as I tried to speak. "My own dad chose not to be here. And yet here you are. I can't thank you enough." Robert smiled softly, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "That's what family does." At that moment I felt something shift inside me. For so long I had measured my worth through the lens of the family who rejected me. But maybe family wasn't defined by who shared your blood. Maybe it was defined by who showed up when it mattered most. Minutes later, as the wedding coordinator called out, 5 minutes until the ceremony, I steadied my breath. My dress brushed against the polished floor, the veil fluttered with every step, and Robert stood ready at my side. Through the small window, I saw the guests filling their seats. The right side of the aisle overflowed with Jason's family, all smiles and anticipation. My side looked sparse, dotted with friends, but missing the faces I had once begged to see. The absence stabbed me, but Robert's steady presence dulled the wound. The music began, my heart thundered. Robert extended his arm and I took it, my hand trembling. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded, and for the first time that morning I truly was. As we stepped into the aisle, heads turned, eyes lit up, cameras flashed. My gaze swept over the rows, pausing on the empty seats reserved for my parents and sister. For a second, grief clawed up my throat, but then my eyes found Jason at the altar, his expression pure awe and love. The ache melted into something stronger, resolve. Each step felt like a declaration I would not be defined by who didn't show up. I would be defined by the love in front of me, the vows waiting to be spoken, the future we were about to build. And as Robert placed my hand into Jason's, my heart whispered the truth I had been afraid to believe. I wasn't walking into this marriage broken. I was walking in whole because I had chosen to be. Sometimes the people you expect to stand with you will fail you, and sometimes the people you never expected will offer you everything you need. Tell me in the comments who showed up for you when you least expected it, and if this story resonates, subscribe. Because soon, you'll see how even this beautiful moment couldn't protect me from the darkest twist of all the revelation, that Harper's betrayal was deeper and more deliberate than anyone imagined. That truth would come later, but in that instant, standing at the altar, I allowed myself to believe in joy, to believe that maybe, just maybe, I was finally free. The ceremony began, and though my heart pounded, a strange calm settled over me. As Robert placed my hand into Jason's, I looked into the face of the man who had chosen me every single day, even when my own family hadn't. His eyes glistened with awe and certainty. For the first time in years, I felt steady. We had chosen to write our own vows. When Jason spoke, his voice was strong but tender. "Hannah, I promise to celebrate every victory as if it were my own. I promise to stand beside you through whatever storms come. With me, your worth will never be in question. Today, I don't just gain a wife, I build a family with you. A family where love isn't conditional." His words broke me open in the best way, tears streaming as I whispered my own vows back. The officiant declared us husband and wife. Applause filled the hall, and yet even in that joy, my eyes flickered to the front row on my side, empty chairs stark and cold. They were the ghosts of people who should have been there, but weren't. My chest ached, but I forced myself to breathe through it. The reception followed in the same venue, twinkling lights above us, tables set with lilies and hydrangeas. Jason and I shared our first dance too at last. For 3 minutes, the world blurred away, just the two of us swaying together. When the song ended, Robert stepped forward, taking my hand. "May I have this dance?" he asked gently. It was the father-daughter dance I thought I'd never have. I whispered, "Thank you for everything today." He squeezed my hand. "You're family now, and that's what family does." I broke down again, this time from gratitude. As the night unfolded, friends raised glasses and told stories. Jason's relatives pulled me into laughter and dancing, and Allison snapped candid photos, determined to document every joy. Despite the absences, the room pulsed with love. It wasn't the family I'd been born into, but it was a family nonetheless. Still, every so often, I caught myself staring at the empty chairs, wondering how my parents could sit at Harper's engagement party while I cut my wedding cake, wondering how Harper could smile into selfies while I said my vows. The hollowness never fully left, but Jason never strayed far from my side, sensing each time my thoughts slipped away. He'd touch my back or whisper a joke to pull me back into the moment. By the time we cut the cake, I almost believed I could end the night in peace. Jason and I pressed the knife into the frosting, our guests cheering, cameras flashing. For the first time all day, I allowed myself to smile without force. But then my phone buzzed in the hidden pocket of my dress. I slipped it out discreetly, not wanting to break the moment. 36 missed calls. A new message from my mother. We need to talk now. My stomach dropped. After all their silence, all their betrayal, why flood my phone now? I tucked it back quickly, trying not to show Jason the panic rising in me. But he noticed. He always noticed. "Everything okay?" he whispered. I forced a smile. "It's nothing." But inside I knew this wasn't nothing. This was the beginning of something bigger, something I wasn't ready for. Have you ever been in a moment of joy when a shadow suddenly fell over it? Share your story in the comments, because I know I'm not alone in that experience. And if you're still here, subscribe, because the shadow falling over my wedding cake was only the beginning. What came next would unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. For now I tried to hold on to the joy, the vows, the laughter, the love that surrounded me. But soon I would discover the truth about Harper, and that truth would shake the very ground beneath my feet. When the last slice of cake had been served and music swelled through the reception hall, I slipped outside into the quiet garden, phone clutched in my hand. The screen still glowed with 36 missed calls and that urgent message from my mother. "We need to talk now." Jason followed, worry etched into his face. "You don't owe them this tonight," he said softly. "This is our day. They already made their choice." He was right, but my heart wouldn't let me ignore it. "What if something's really wrong?" I whispered. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "If you need to call, do it. Just remember, you don't owe them anything." With trembling hands, I dialed my mother. She answered on the first ring, her voice frantic, uneven with sobs. "Hannah, thank God. We've been trying to reach you for hours." "I was busy," I said flatly. "Getting married." There was silence, then her voice cracked. "It's Harper." Patrick called off the engagement. He ended it right in the middle of the party. He said he couldn't go through with it because Harper confessed what she did to you. I froze, the world tilted. "What are you talking about? What did she do to me?" My father's voice broke in shaky. "Hannah," she lied. "She told us you changed your wedding date and didn't invite us. She showed us fake texts from you saying you didn't want us there, that you were only having Jason's family because they were your real family." The phone nearly slipped from my hand. "That's insane. I called you for weeks. I left voicemails begging you to come." My mother's sobs deepened. We know now." Patrick confronted her tonight after she bragged about finally being the center of attention. She broke down and admitted everything. She created fake text threads. She deleted your real messages from our phones when we weren't looking. She even intercepted your invitation. We believed her, Hannah. We thought you didn't want us there. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. You believed her. After all these years, after everything I've done, you actually believed I would shut you out of my own wedding. My father's voice was heavy with shame. We failed you. We should have questioned it. We should have called you directly. But we were cowards. We knew we had neglected you for years, and when Harper told us you didn't want us there, part of us thought maybe we deserved it. My knees buckled. I sank onto a bench in the garden, clutching the phone like a lifeline. "And Naomi?" I asked bitterly. "Why did she betray me too?" There was another pause. Then my mother admitted Harper showed Naomi fake texts as well. She told Naomi you had chosen someone else to be your maid of honor, that you only asked Naomi out of obligation. She convinced her that attending the engagement party would save her the humiliation of showing up at your wedding. The betrayal cut deeper than any blade. Not just my family, but my best friend manipulated by Harper's lies. "Where is she now?" I asked, my voice cold. "She left the party after Patrick ended things." We don't know where she went, my mother whispered. We're so sorry, Hannah. We don't expect forgiveness. We just couldn't let another day go by without telling you the truth. I stared into the dark garden, the sound of distant music spilling from the hall. My wedding reception carried on without me, while my family's confession unraveled everything I thought I knew. Harper hadn't just overshadowed me, she had stolen my day with deliberate cruelty. Imagine learning on your wedding night that your own sister fabricated texts to sabotage you. What would you do? Tell me in the comments, because I still don't know how to carry the weight of that truth. And if you're still watching, subscribe, because the confrontation that followed would be the hardest of my life. I ended the call numb. Jason found me there, tears streaming silently down my cheeks. They lied, I whispered. She lied about everything. He knelt in front of me, holding my hands. Then we'll face it together. Tonight, tomorrow, whenever you're ready, but you are not alone in this anymore. And as I looked at him, my husband of only a few hours, I realized he was right. The truth was out. The damage was done, but the confrontation, the reckoning, was still to come. At 11 that night, Jason and I slipped into the quiet hotel lobby, my dress exchanged for a simple outfit, my heart still pounding from the revelations. I half expected my parents to cancel, to disappear like they always had. But at 11:15 they arrived, red-eyed, weary-looking, smaller than I had ever seen them. My mother rushed forward, arms open, but stopped short when I instinctively stepped back. Jason suggested we move to a small meeting room off the lobby. The four of us sat in silence until my father finally spoke. Hannah, we don't expect forgiveness. Believing Harper's lies, missing your wedding, it's unforgivable. But we need you to know how deeply sorry we are. My voice shook but stayed firm. Sorry doesn't change the fact you weren't there, or that you thought I would push you out of my wedding without even asking me. Do you realize what that says about how little you know me? My mother's tears fell freely. You're right, there's no excuse. We failed you not just today, but for years. We knew we'd favored Harper. We knew we let you down, and when she told us you didn't want us, we believed it. Because part of us thought maybe we deserved that rejection. I stared at them, the people who should have been my foundation, admitting they had chosen the easy path of believing lies, rather than facing their failures. So you just gave up on me, without a fight, without even calling me directly. My father's voice broke. We were cowards. It was easier to believe Harper than to confront our guilt. And she's our daughter too. We never thought she'd lie about something so important. Where is she now? I asked. They exchanged a glance. She left after Patrick ended things, my father said. We don't know where she went. She won't answer our calls. I shook my head slowly. I don't understand how she could go this far. This isn't jealousy anymore, it's cruelty. She ruined my wedding. She ruined my trust. Jason finally spoke, his voice sharp. Feelings of envy don't excuse deliberate sabotage. You enabled this for years by giving in to her every demand. And Hannah has paid the price. For once my parents didn't argue. My father bowed his head. You're right. We've enabled her, and we've failed Hannah. All we can do is try to change. I looked at them, really looked at their guilt, their shame, their desperation. A part of me ached for what could have been for the family I never had. But another part of me knew I couldn't simply forgive and pretend. I can't forgive you tonight, I said quietly. Maybe not for a long time. Missing my wedding, that wound won't heal quickly. But if you're truly serious about change, it has to be more than words. It means therapy. It means accountability. It means Harper getting real help. They nodded eagerly through tears. Anything, my mother whispered. We'll do anything. The conversation dragged on for an hour, heavy but necessary. No hugs, no magical reconciliation. Just raw honesty and the faintest outline of a new beginning. When Jason and I finally left for our room, he squeezed my hand. Are you okay? I considered it carefully. Not yet, but maybe I will be. Orita. 6 months later, my parents kept their word. They entered therapy first alone, then with me. Harper resurfaced fragile and broken, admitting through tears that jealousy had consumed her for years. Naomi begged for forgiveness too, sending letters and flowers until I agreed to see her. Trust took time, and healing came in slow steps. But there was one truth I carried every day: forgiveness is not a single act. It's a process. A choice you make again and again, with boundaries and with caution. And on our first anniversary, when Jason and I announced we were expecting a baby, I realized the cycle could finally end. I would never let my child feel like I did, unseen, unloved, forgotten. If you've ever been forced to rebuild trust with people who shattered it, how did you do it? Share your story in the comments. I want to know how others have walked this road. And if this story struck something in you, subscribe. Because my journey doesn't end here. In the next video, I'll share how becoming a mother reshaped everything I thought I knew about family love and forgiveness. Because sometimes the deepest betrayals plant the seeds of the strongest boundaries, and sometimes those boundaries are the first step toward freedom. Looking back now, I realize my wedding day was both the most painful and the most liberating day of my life. Painful because the people I had longed for, most the ones whose approval I chased since childhood, were absent. Liberating because for the first time I saw the truth with absolute clarity. Family, I learned, is not always about blood. It is about who shows up. It is about who holds your hand when the storm comes, who dances with you when your heart feels too heavy, who steps in without being asked and says, "I've got you." On that day, Jason's family and my friends filled the empty seats. They proved that love doesn't have to be earned, it is given freely, joyfully, without conditions. Healing hasn't been simple. My parents are trying. Harper is unraveling her own demons. Naomi is still rebuilding what she broke. Some days old wounds ache as if they happened yesterday. But I've learned that scars don't mean weakness. They mean survival. Now, as Jason and I prepare to welcome our first child, I carry these lessons forward. My child will never wonder if they are enough. They will never sit in silence while someone else is celebrated in their place. They will know love not as something they must fight for, but as the ground beneath their feet. Forgiveness, I've discovered, is not about erasing the past. It's about choosing to move forward without letting the past define you. It's about setting boundaries, breaking cycles, and daring to build something healthier. So if you've ever felt unseen, unloved, or overshadowed, hear me now, you are enough. And sometimes the family we create out of choice is the one that saves us.